What is up, everybody? So I've made some more updates to the game. So we have 3D models and animations, and this took me a lot longer than I thought because working with 3D in of itself is not that hard, but the animations and getting the face the right direction and having the animations trigger, it was an entire can of worms. It was a lot to learn, but I finally got it figured out. So let's go ahead and give it a little quick demo here. So we have this over-the-shoulder camera. We now have camera movement, and this is attached directly to the player, so it follows the player around. And of course, you can see we have different animations for moving left, right, forward, running, and backwards. Now, the thing that was a big challenge was the animations might be synced up so that when you run forward, it would trigger. But then if you turned around and run this way, you would end up using the backwards animation while walking forward because it's not set up with local space. And that was a lot for me to figure out how to get that to translate over, especially since it's not just on the character. If it was just a character, it would be simple enough. But I also have to worry about all of these squad members. So when I tell them to, go to a specific direction, I want to make sure that they're facing the right way. They'd be walking backwards or whatever. So I had to make sure that information has to be passed in through their navigation component so it tells them what way to face. And I'll give a little quick peek of that. So we can ignore all this. I'm going to get into that in a future episode. So if we look at our core character script, you can see it's actually not very big, right? We're not doing a lot in here. We don't really want to deal with telling them where to go or what to do because that's handled by, maybe the player is going to have a controller that tells them how to move. And the NPCs need to have a navigation component to tell them how to move. So I want to leave this as agnostic as possible. It's when we start getting into our other nodes here. So for example, we go into our player, we have our input manager. This handles, moving around and triggering, starting the animation. But we're moving into using signals now because I'm wanting to avoid spaghetti code going back and forth. So we have this entity manager, which can now listen to those signals, and then we'll call down to specific nodes if they're attached to it. So if it receives the attack signal, it will call the animation, or it will call, to attack. This is what I'm going to start moving towards because what's happening is we get in all these components that are all talking to each other. It's going to create a lot more spaghetti code. So I'm going to start working in the future on moving this stuff over into that entity management component. So this can be like the core component that manages all of those signals, almost like a signal bus. Now under our navigation component here, this is what tells the NPCs where to move, where the next nav point is so they don't end up running into walls. But I decided to put the rotation data in there as well because I figured I don't want to create a whole node just for managing the rotation, and I felt that it was pretty connected. And so what this actually does is it tells them to rotate towards the direction that they're walking unless they're too close to it because I felt that would be unnatural. So if they're close enough to the point that they're supposed to navigate to, they can actually back up or walk sideways, and that gives us that kind of like fine control. I also have another, so here we have our run distance threshold. If they're at least this far away from their point, they'll actually trigger run animation. Otherwise, they'll just continue to walk. So that's why we get this effect where when I tell them to walk to a point, they'll run. Unless I tell them to walk and it's like close, they'll walk to it because we have that threshold. Some of them might walk. There we go. And this gives me fine control because we have this squad management, which is going to tell them where to go. But each one of them actually handles their own navigation, right? The squad only talks to their nav manager in a sense. So the squad manager says, hey, I need you to go to this point. But it's the nav manager within each individual unit that tells them where to go. The beauty of this is, yes, I can tell the squad where to go, but each individual unit could have its own AI so that as it gets close to an enemy unit, maybe this guy wants to be able to step out at least 5 foot away from the squad, and we can have that AI determined based on what formation they're in. For example, if they're in a shield wall, maybe they won't leave the formation at all. But if they're in this loose formation, maybe they'll have some leeway to chase down enemy soldiers and split up. And that's going to give us some flexibility to play with so that we don't have to micromanage our units. We could say, hey, I need you to go fight these guys, and then we'll have the AI handle everything from there. Now, I really wanted to do more for this devlog. I wanted to have attack animations, which we sort of have, but they don't do anything. But I worked so long on just getting this stuff working that I completely underestimated the time it was going to take to get that stuff done. So right now I am working on the health components and on the hurt boxes, and I'm going to make it so that we can actually start causing damage, and then we can really get rolling, because once we can get damage and we can get health working, now we can start playing around with some AI, with having units battle each other, even if it's just boring fist fights. And then once we get that going, we can just start playing with weapons. And honestly, I feel like the core framework is done. Now it's really just about, building out the systems on top of it. And I'm not saying that that's not going to be a lot of work, because it absolutely will be. And it's very easy to underestimate how simple things will be. For example, just making these guys face the right way was a lot of work. But I'm really happy where things are going, and I feel like now I can actually work on the game part of the game. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll hit you with some updates soon. If you like this video, please feel free to like, hit that subscription button, hit that spam bell, and we'll get some more videos out for you soon.